court strikes down U.S. net neutrality rules. A U.S. court has rejected the Biden administration's bid to restore net neutrality rules, finding that the federal government does not have the authority to regulate internet providers like utilities. It marks a major defeat for so-called open internet advocates, who have long fought for protections that would require internet providers such as AT&T to treat all legal content equally. Such rules were first introduced by the Federal Communications Commission under former Democratic President Barack Obama, but later repealed during Republican Donald Trump's first term. The decision, just as Trump is poised to enter the White House for a second term, likely puts an end to the long-running legal battle over the issue. In their decision, the judges noted that the different administrations have gone back and forth on the issue, but they said the court no longer had to give deference to the FCC's reading of the law, pointing to a recent Supreme Court decision, Chevron, I've added that limits the authority of federal agencies to interpret laws, a decision that critics expect will be used to weaken regulation in the years ahead. So our first topic is, what is net neutrality?
Ooh. I know that you follow this a lot more than me, so you're probably going to give a better answer. Hit him with it.
All right. So in essence, net neutrality is the idea that your internet service provider has to treat all content, as long as it's legal content, the same. They can't give preference to certain sources, which is good for you as the end user, because when you go online and you want to access something, you want to just very easily be able to access it. So the example I'll give is, when you install Google Chrome for the first time on a new computer, and you open up Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, and Microsoft, when you type into Edge, the only purpose this browser exists, you type in download Google Chrome. And before you download Google Chrome, it gives you a little warning that says, hey, did you know that our browser is actually really awesome and good, and you don't need to download Google Chrome. Hey, please stay on the Microsoft one. That's because Microsoft owns that browser, and they are entitled to use that real estate to promote their own products and give preference to their services. Well, now imagine if your internet service provider had the same flexibility to give preference to their own products and their associates' products, and take preference away from their opponents' products by influencing the speed at which you can access the information through your internet connection.
Yeah, so this is wild. So,
Right, so
to the layman, the internet is fast. You type into your search, I want to go and find, some sales at your grocery store, and then, your search engine delivers those results in 0.00001 second, and you see the deals of the day at your grocery store. Imagine now that the
owners of Bell Canada, who you get your internet through,
yep, are able to modify even the speed at which you're able to search for something, saying, hey, well, we're going to delay the search, we're going to make it not a usable experience.
The speed is really what it refers to. They can't adjust the content the way that Microsoft can in the browser.
But they're just going to make it, they're going to provide preferential treatment to people that they want to, for whatever reason.
And so that could be that, hey, you're on Bell Internet and you want to research Rogers prices. Well, that Rogers website might load really slowly for you on your Bell Internet connection, because Bell wants to incentivize you not to go and switch to Rogers. And that's, in my mind, sort of the most obvious downside
that's what
to
you
the loss of net neutrality. It's really obvious. It's really easy to see that.
You can see where that starts to slip.
But where that gets really scary is that internet service providers are owned by big corporations and really wealthy, influential people. And they could apply that to a lot of different areas that are not so nuts and bolts business focused. If a highly politically minded owner of a company wants to restrict your access to news, they might say, you know what, I don't agree with news sources on one side of the aisle, so we're going to, or the other, we're going to take those news sources and we are going to throttle connection speeds to those news sources so that people on our network are less likely to go and consume that content. Because as the owner of this company, I don't agree with it, and I'm going to use my power because I don't have to be neutral. in order to throttle those speeds and give you a horrible experience so that you're only going to read the news that I agree with.
And this is the examples that we're giving are just like blatantly obvious. There are going to be very, very intelligent individuals that find very creative ways to do things, to manipulate search.
Yeah.
What you can and what you are able to see and how far things will go and how things actually make it to the end user. It will become... there are just very creative individuals out there that will be able to extort influence because it is no longer neutral. And it's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Everyone there, I don't see I've never been, and personally I've never seen a good argument for why net neutrality isn't a good thing. Having the same equal access to information online.
I mean, it's the same argument as anything else. Like, people who are against net neutrality claim that it's government overreach. Right? And
yeah, it's
just...
the
free market will sort it out, and if you don't like the service you're getting from one internet service provider, you can switch to another. Whether that makes any sense, given the infrastructure involved, is a separate conversation.
It's just hard to see. It's hard to see. It's just like if I want to be able to research Rogers pricing and I'm a Bell customer, I should just be able to do that on the internet. And
I use the examples of Rogers and Bell because we're talking to a Canadian audience, and we're a Canadian company. It's worth noting this was an American court case. So
thank you. Yes.
Outside of the U.S., is this going to impact anything right away? Probably not. Not in any major way. It sends a signal, I would say, to companies that are engaging in business on the internet that the tides are shifting in that direction. We might see other companies following the U.S.'s footsteps because they're a global leader. But like presently, as a Canadian business or a Canadian a person who with a Canadian internet connection is probably not going to have a massive impact on you. But by the same token, if you're a Canadian company trying to sell into the U.S. and there are U.S. ISPs that are extremely protectionist and want to take business away from foreign markets, which is very topical right now with everything going on in the news, it would not be unreasonable to imagine those internet service providers throttling traffic from foreign sources.
It's something that you wouldn't, as a business, be able to fight against. Like, you're fighting the infrastructure, and that's a losing battle.
Yeah.
So, your message will just not make it. So, we'll see.
For Canadians selling to Canadians, keep an eye on the news and, see if this evolves, see if this gains traction outside the U.S. For Canadians selling into the U.S., just be aware that if you start to see a traffic dip from U.S. sources, this could be part of it.
This is something that you really need to know your numbers going into this. So if you aren't using any analytics dashboards, if you're not focused on any SEO metrics, if you don't have KPIs, you will probably see a dip, and it will be very difficult to understand why, because nothing will have changed on your end. Yeah. It will be the infrastructure that has changed. So that's just a little tidbit. If you don't know your analytics, that's a whole separate problem, but you should understand where your traffic's coming from. You should understand where your customers are coming from, why they're purchasing, why they're not purchasing. And if one of the reasons is that they're not purchasing because they're not finding you in the first place, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
No,
I don't believe this will affect discoverability in the short term.
This is not a short-term thing, because this is going to take some time.
No, it is a short-term thing, because the ISPs can make changes like that.
Oh, they right? can make them that fast.
So if your audience is in a market where the ISPs decide to start making these changes,
it will happen very quickly.
It will happen very quickly.
Yes.
In terms of search discoverability, though, the ISPs aren't impacting what shows up in Google.
Correct.
They're impacting how fast the sites can be accessed by the browser.
Yes. So yeah, you're still going to be. If you're still on page 1 of Google, this is not like a reduction of ranking.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. Long term, it might be, though.
It might be because
it's going to impact your bounce rates.
A bounce rate will be impacted. There's going to be a bunch of things impacted at that level.
Right?
Yeah.
And that may send signals to Google that impact your SEO and
saying that the website's not loading, failed to load, and something.
Over
that starts getting hairy really quickly.
That will be slower, but could totally start happening as sort of a carry-on to all of this.
Wild, because that is true. Yeah.
Net neutrality, super important. It's a shame to see it starting to disappear.
Yeah.
I don't think we have too much more to share on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to probably end up coming back to this, because as we see things in the news, we're going to bring back, this is going to be an evolving topic over the 2025 probably. if you have questions about it, reach out. There's still a lot of unknowns in this one, but it's not looking good.
No.